It's a pleasure of mine to now introduce you to our next panel. Basically, it's my friend Juan Carlos Gutierrez, JC. He's going to be moderating the digital transformation panel. First, I want to take a couple minutes to tell you who Juan Carlos Gutierrez is. Mr. Gutierrez is a global information technology and business consulting executive with more than 2 decades in top leadership roles in global 500 organizations and national nonprofits. Scary, huh? Juan Carlos is a board member of HITEC. This is who we are. Also, he is a board member of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. And in addition to that, he's a board member of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Gutierrez is currently a managing partner at Rational 7, a consulting firm specializing in artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, or Internet of Everythings, pick your own term there, and cloud computing. He's a former managing director of PricewaterhouseCoopers and former Oracle Corporation Group Vice President, veteran, where he was responsible for the consulting business for the Latin America and Caribbean regions for a decade. Prior to Oracle Corporation, he worked in different top executive positions at PeopleSoft, March 1st, Latin America, and Oracle Corporation for several years. He is a 6 times awardee of HITEC 100, and probably he's going to be a number 7 again. And that goes from 2009 to 2015. Mr. Juan Carlos Gutierrez is a volunteer as a runner and cyclist for charitable organizations, as Live Runners and ADA, American Diabetes Association. He's married with 3 children and lives in the beautiful state of Florida. Welcome, Juan Carlos Gutierrez, guys.
Please, Ipana. I will hire you after that, Ricardo. Thank you for that. Great introduction. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to moderate this panel, and what a great honor to have my friends here in the panel. And I'm going to start with a quick introduction of who the panel is. First of all, Monica McManus, who has been promoted recently, and now she's a president and CIO for the Rotary and Mission Systems at Lockheed Martin. Monica previously was VP of Applications of Lockheed Martin Enterprise Business Services and CIO for Enterprise Operations. Monica was recently for the EBS software applications portfolio with primary focus on strategic efforts in digitization, analytics, and automation priorities in DevOps and cloud. Monica has more than 30 years of experience in business, program, and engineering leadership. Previously, Monica served as a member of the board of directors of both Volunteer Fairfax and Multinational Development of Women in Technology. She has also served as executive champion for the Women's Network in Lockheed Martin. Thank you, Monica, for being with us today. We have also my friend Francesca Vasquez. Francesca is the head of Amazon Web Services Solutions Architecture at AWS. She and her team focus on enabling customer business outcomes and acquisition through prescriptive architectural guidance and differentiating customer experiences with AWS platform services. The team focuses on commercial markets with customers ranging from early stage startups to large scale enterprise across the US, Canada, and Latin America. Francesca was formerly Group VP at Oracle, North America, Cloud Infrastructure Solution Engineering Team. Before that, Francesca was with Salesforce, where she led the Enterprise Solutions and Architecture team. She's also a former partner at CSC, now DXC Technology, where she managed 2 global innovation centers and launched the Future Edge for Oracle Engineering Systems. Francesca holds a Master in Science in Technology, Public Policy from George Mason University, and a BS in Computer Science from Litchfield College. Thank you, Francesca, also a champion in STEM. Thank you for being here. And finally, we have Carlos Lopez-Zabadia, who is Vice President and General Manager for Consulting, DXC Technology. Carlos Lopez Abadia serves as DXC Technology Vice President and General Manager. And he's responsible for digital transformation advisory services, including strategic partnerships in the consulting domain. He actually did a great alliance with PwC. And he is focusing on day-to-day execution on fundamental processes. Mr. Lopez Abadia, prior experience includes serving as CSC Vice President and General Manager, Diversified Industries, and Vice President and General Manager, Energy and Technology. Carlos holds a Master in Physics from Universidad del País Vasco, Spain. He also holds a Master in Electrical Engineering from Purdue University and MBA from Washington University. Thank you, Carlos, for being here with us today. Monica, Francesca, Carlos, thank you. Now, let's break the ice a little bit. Why you don't share with us anything that is not in this resume, any secret, any fun story that is gonna make us to know you much better? Who wants to start, Monica?
I'll start because I know some of the later stories are really a lot better than mine. I will just say that I have, in the last several years, gotten very interested in genealogy, and it's just been a real focus of mine in terms of doing research and learning about, what I think is most interesting is to learn about how our ancestors lived and what they did, and how that shaped us to who we are today. I will tell you if anyone wants to talk about this at a break, because I'd love to talk. The records in Puerto Rico are amazingly awesome. The records for church records and really tell you a lot about your family, and they talk about the siblings and the parents and the grandparents. It's really amazing stuff, and my dream is to get to Spain, because the Spain records are not on the internet, so I can't get them that way, and really see some records from my great-grandparents that were born in Spain. So it's something I really enjoy doing, and so if anybody else does, I'd love to talk to you at the break.
Okay, well, so I guess one thing that most people don't know, I'm a former military brat. I grew up and spent a lot of my time in what was West Germany. And one of the things about Europe is this great highway called the Autobahn. So I have a huge passion for cars, and I also have a passion for technology, hence my developer background. So early in my career, I got involved in a lot of projects around telematics with companies like Daimler, Chrysler, Mercedes. If any of you drive a Mercedes and you use that Embrace application, I was part of the core team with Hughes that ultimately developed that application for use. And that's what I use to justify when I need to get a new Mercedes with my husband. So developer, Autobahn, very passionate about that.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Hey, Carlos.
Well, my colleagues here persuaded me not to share my more colorful stories, and so you're gonna get the downgraded one. So I mentioned in my introduction earlier that I'm a little bit of a confused person. I grew up in Spain, in Bilbao, to be precise, small town on the northern coast of Spain. I live in Denver. My headquarters are here in DC. That's what my business card says that I am. I have a global responsibility, so I'm traveling all the time. So those of you that travel a lot probably would relate a little bit to my experience. I have acquired so many millions of miles in so many airlines that I'll relate a story that happened to me a couple of years ago, I think, on a flight between London and Denver. I believe at the time was the Formula One champion, Hamilton, was in the cabin, and he had chosen to be in a little corner of the cabin, presumably so that nobody bothers him. His very attractive girlfriend was with him, father, mother, the whole entourage was there. It was the whole entourage and me. It so happened that I was sitting next to his girlfriend, and after the flight takes off, a few minutes, the pilot comes out and comes straight to me. So, Mr. Lopez Abadia, thank you so much for your business. We really appreciate it. And he chats, a few minutes with me. And then he goes back to the cabin. This Hamilton speaking, but other people see this from the cabin, from the other cabin. And, somebody comes and asks for my autograph. And then somebody else. And then somebody else. So, the girlfriend, I forget her name, she was, I'm sure you've seen her in TV if you follow Formula One. She was having a laugh. And when we get to Denver, we come out of the airplane and the guy's looking at me. I forget exactly how he says, but something to the effect, who the heck are you anyway? And I said, well, I'm this guy that lives here in Denver. And he goes, can I take a picture with you? Dad, he gives the phone to his dad and, takes a picture with me. I told this to my kids. They loved it. The point of the story, other than the relative humor, is that's a lot of miles, for you to be recognized by the pilot. So anyway, that's my life.
That's a good one. Well, my quick story, in my 20s, between my teenager age and my 20s, I did a lot of martial art. So I'm a brown belt in full contact. And I'm not that person anymore. But in one of my fights, I had a double kick, and I received that, and I was totally knocked out. And I lost my memory for 24 hours. So if you remember this movie from Adam Sanders where, with a girlfriend and she doesn't remember anything in the 24 hours, that was me for, actually full 24 hours. I didn't remember anything. So after that, I slowed down a little bit more. So but I used to share that with me, with all of you about my 20s. But let's go to digital now. So digital cool means a lot of things as an introduction. And but in general, I think there is an agreement that digital is related with technology that is emerging, that is new, but that is making an impact of transforming the processes and the business of companies to make them more competitive, right? And it's growing tremendously. Gartner and several analysts are saying that the impact of digital transformation is really evolving continuously. And concepts like a digital IQ or digital intelligence that measure the level of digital in the industry are improving every year. So it's a trend that is happening, right? And the number of devices, the number of mobile, the number of components that we use to access this transformation is growing, and it's going to surpass the population and globally. And numbers like 50 billion devices will be connected to the Internet of Everything pretty soon. So it's happening. It's happening, growing faster, et cetera. Data, as we know, grows based on Gartner. Every 2 years we create the volume of data that the whole history of the humanity. So every 2 years is happening that. So the volume of data is tremendously growing fast. And the roles of the companies internally, the CIO, are also changing. So there is too many things happening, too many things that are occurring at the same time, and are affecting every one of us as consumers and also as IT vendors and IT professionals. So let's start with how everyone in the panel. What are you seeing? What are you seeing internally in your companies in this digital transformation? And also, what are you seeing in the case of your clients? What is happening there? I don't know. Monica, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. So I work for Lockheed Martin. We're an aerospace and defense firm, so we create products like the F-35 jet fighter, C-130, Sikorsky helicopters, littoral combat ships. We manufacture all kinds of things. And what we're seeing is really, we have now established a digital strategy all the way at the CEO's level. So the CEO and her staff have been briefed on this, are on board with the strategy and the plan. I think that's really imperative. We've talked to other companies that have done a lot of work in digital, and it's really got to be at the top, that kind of strategy and plan, because otherwise it just doesn't happen. We've had a number of accomplishments in terms of digitization of various different processes, but I'll talk in generalities in terms of the kinds of things we're working on. I think one of the most important pieces is a digital twin. And so, every one of our products would have a digital twin. And that enables us to look at what that particular product, that particular plane, that particular ship what circumstances it's been exposed to, what that means in terms of operations and maintenance of that platform, whatever it is, and to make sure that we can keep those platforms operational 100% of the time. So that means predicting when failures might happen, replacing parts, or taking corrective actions so those failures don't happen. And this is important because our customers are governments and military around the world. And so having those products available when they need them is absolutely critical. And so those kinds of things are the kinds of things that we're really focused on in terms of digital transformation. And I think it's making a big difference for our customers. But I'll tell you, we have a lot more to do. So that we're doing a lot today, but there's a lot more to come. And so I'll leave it at that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I work for Amazon Web Services, and when I think about digital transformation, a core part of our premise is driving that enablement for the customers that we service. We have a fundamentally different business model. We tend to work backwards from our customer strategy, and I would say that for most of the CEOs that we tend to meet with, 42% of them generally are still aligning their strategies around growth. And with that, they're looking at how they can introduce new customer products and solutions to market. They're looking at how they can essentially reinvent the customer experience, which is something that our .com business is heavily weighted on. And so to that end, they're coming to us looking at ways that they can provide competitive differentiation. They're coming to us looking for how they can not only drive a digital-first strategy, but also very closely aligned as a mobile strategy as well. So I think that over time, a lot of these organizations are starting to pivot their projects and their initiatives really around innovation, which can sometimes be very hard to quantify. So we're very focused on our customers. You mentioned just some of the trends around just sensor data as an example. We work with customers that range anywhere from startups to government agencies to enterprises. Many of you might be part of our consumer customer on the .com business. And a lot of it is really around how we can drive transformation for our customer's customer. And that spans solutions that look at things like one of our larger tractor companies that's looking at where they can drive innovation in seed implantation. They're looking at even consumer companies that are trying to build more effective smart homes. We work with organizations like Netflix, just in terms, and I pick those because when you think about companies like Netflix, which now is one of the largest video streaming internet companies in the world, their whole business is digital. Their whole transformation is multi-channel, and it's mobile, it's tablets. And so we're really looking at how we can disrupt and enable these organizations from an Amazon Web Services perspective.
Well, you have a two-part question, in our company and outside. So let me answer first what we see in our company. DXC Technology is a $25 billion company. We're relatively new in a sense, but because we come from a merger of CSC and HP Enterprise Services, we began our existence as DXC in April 1st this year. Now, we chose to call ourselves DXC Technology. DXC stands for Digital Transformation Company. And it's not just a name. I mean, we're not publishing it as, the name of the company is DXC, it's not but it stands for that internally. We have chosen to do everything, to build a company, to focus our services, investment, people, growth, specifically on digital transformation. We think is that important. And when you do something like that, is not because it's something that is, hey, next couple of years. This is something we fully expect that it will be a fundamental transformation, not just of companies and industries and value chains, but of society. It has started, it's already with us, and it's decades ahead of us. So internally, the short answer is we're changing everything around digital transformation. With our clients, we for the very same reasons, it's only a question of in what part of the digital transformation we work, to what's the breadth and depth. But fundamentally, we believe, I personally believe, that if you are experiencing already as consumers how the world is changing, how your behavior has changed, how you engage with providers have changed, whether it is buying through digital channels, how you procure entertainment, the types of entertainment that you focus on, so on and so forth. That has a repercussion on everybody's business. And if you are in business and you don't have a digital strategy and you're already not tackling the opportunities and the problems, the disruption, then you have a serious problem.
Thank you for that. So I think, Monica, you touched on something about the involvement of the CEO in the company. And in my previous company, in PwC, one of the key elements of a successful digital transformation was exactly to have the CEO. In your case, Carlos, you're mentioning that also is company-wise. So what are you seeing in your clients or in the market about why a digital transformation could fail, and how to solve or work around those areas so the digital transformation really happens with your clients or internally, like for example the CEO involvement to make that happen. So, Starman.
So I think the CEO buy-in is absolutely critical. I think you have to have. But what we're seeing is you really need to have the knowledge across the whole organization. So we're doing digitization in HR, in finance, in supply chain, in engineering, in manufacturing, across the board. And part of, I think, what's really important in the transition that I've seen over the last couple of years is now we have professionals outside of IT, outside of the digital organization that are really thinking about digital and how they're going to make it happen. And the results that they've seen so far make them advocate even more. And so I think that's very important. I think the other piece that's really important, and it was talked about a little bit by the speakers from Fannie Mae earlier, is the cultural aspects. Really, digitization can be seen as a threat, either to our own IT teams or to the functional teams. And so I think it's very important that we're talking to our entire employee base about the benefits of digitization. So certainly it's about our customers, it's about our platforms and doing a better job with that. But there's benefits to the employees if we can show them the road to the future, right? Some of their jobs may get automated. You talk about DevOps and some of the things that underline this digitization strategy. Some of our IT employees, their jobs may be automated, but do they see a training path that gets them to the next job, right? And so what we're doing in our IT organization is really rolling out what we call IT Academy, which is a way for people who see their jobs diminishing to learn more and to get to that next level, or even for our folks in apps development who their jobs probably aren't going away, but they need to know about new technologies, new techniques. They need to learn how to use Amazon, right? And so that we make that available to them as well. So I think those are some of the things that come to mind.
And that's great. And one of the barriers that I found out is also as part of the democratization of technology. So that digital brings to the table that everybody can make decisions now. The HR department, the marketing department to go and hire AWS and do that without necessarily the involvement of IT. The barrier is the knowledge of technology. So it's a barrier because you think it's so easy that you can go and hire it, but then there is a lack of integration, there is a lack of orchestration. Going to your point of having the everybody involved and doing the academy to the rest of the organization so they understand what is digital really.
I agree. And the other thing too is IT is not going to corner the market on writing code. Everyone's going to write code. So IT needs to create these environments so that citizen innovators, people outside our organization, can write code and sign up for some cloud services and those kinds of things. And so we have to, people call them bumpers, right? You need to create an environment where they're not going to go wild, right? And make our information security team crazy. But really, create an environment where they can do what they need to do without getting themselves into trouble.
What barriers are you seeing?
Yeah, so I'll talk about it from an Amazon Web Services perspective, and then I'll talk about our customer. From our perspective, I mean, I think we tend to view ourselves as really being a company that is completely obsessed with customers. We're not an organization culturally that tends to think about a competition. We really obsess and over-rotate on customers. And that's important in our journey for digital transformation because culture is both an enabler and it can also be a blocker without that executive buy-in when you're trying to drive those strategies in your various organizations. And so for us, our executive team is fully behind innovation. We create a culture that's aligned around standard sort of leadership principles that tie to all of our key business processes. And then the other thing that we try to do is we try to create mechanisms that really allow people within all divisions of Amazon to just invent. And so we tend to experiment quite a lot. When you're thinking about digital transformation, being able to experiment, and the gentleman from Fannie Mae said it best, and being able to fail fast, learn from it, and keep experimenting is kind of part of our DNA, and it's what allows us to go very fast. Digital transformation speed is also very much involved, and so you want to be able to scale and go pretty fast. From our customer perspective, I think about one of our customers, GE, and I look at sort of their transformational journey, and I think in order to be successful in driving these digital strategies, it is very important to have executive or senior leadership behind those initiatives, and then I think you also have to establish a culture that allows teams to be able to innovate. And then the other thing that I've seen work very well is to not really boil the ocean. Start with an initiative or a project where you can establish micro wins and success, and then be able to iterate on that very quickly. But that's been our experience with customers.
I have to agree with my co-panelists here. From my perspective, digital transformation is enabled by technology. So clearly having the technology capabilities in your organization is important, but it's just an enabler. Digital transformation is about how you're going to change your business to take advantage of the digital revolution. The simplest examples that we all know about, to refer to my colleague, Amazon was a pioneer of the, Amazon.com, right? In the early days, it was Amazon and a few others. Today there is a plethora, Amazon may be the largest one, but there's a plethora of companies that market directly to consumers. Most of you that live in the US are probably very well aware of the shopping mall crisis. They're closing down all over the country. To me, that is a fundamental business change. Yes, there is some technology somewhere in there at the bottom, right? But at the end of the day, it's the disruption of the whole industry that was enabled by that technology. So, because to me, it's so important that for your business, you understand the challenges, the potential threats, and the potential opportunities that you have you could take advantage of. It's critically important, the points that my colleagues made here. So one is the senior executive sponsorship from the CEO downwards. If there's no awareness in the company that there's a tremendous opportunity and that it requires to rethink the way we do business, it's not likely to succeed. I fully subscribe to the fail fast. We call it agile, not just agile methodology in IT development, but agile businesses. No matter what the strategy you build, for digital transformation, is likely to be wrong. But the fact that you sit down and develop one, it gets you in the position of understanding better, not you personally, but the organization as a whole, understanding better what are the levers, what are the issues. And despite the fact that you probably will get it wrong, you'll be in a very position that if you try and fail fast, to course correct. And at the end of the day, it's not about how fast you are, it's how much faster you are than your competition. So those two things, senior executive commitment and sponsorship, and the organizational agility to try. Know that you're going to get it wrong, but you're going to learn from the exercise and continue repeating. Those are two keys to success.
Excellent.
Can I piggyback on something that Monica just said really quickly, which was about in your organization empowering really different personas, business users, to be able. I think that with so much innovation that's happening in technology right now, 15 years ago, the lag between when a new technology came out to when an organization could actually consume it oftentimes spanned 12 to 18 months and even longer. I think now you see a lot of new capabilities and technologies that come out, and that lag has shortened. And I think we'll talk about this, but you see that in the areas of data analytics and AI, where those aren't concepts for just us lab rats. Those are, technologies that are consumer sort of focused, and everyone can participate in that journey. So I think you'll see that sort of evolution as well.
Excellent. And just expanding that point of AI and RPA and machine learning and everything that is happening as part of the analyzing all that data, making that available to make changes and decisions. There is a big concern of replacing jobs. There is a big concern of downsizing organizations of people to increase productivity. So what are you seeing, or what are your thoughts on that possible risk of AI affecting the jobs and the roles in the organizations and in the market? So just let's start now with Carlos, the more difficult one now.
No, not necessarily. I'm firmly convinced that AI and the other technologies as well, I think, first of all, I think they're a little bit overhyped in terms of the impact. But forget about that point. Any new technology, any new approach to business that is introduced to become more efficient. I mean, everything from, the invention of fire, electricity, right? So naturally, every single time, with, oh my God, this is going to replace the people that were doing whatever it is that technology is replacing. It so happens that every single time also the economies have grown. More jobs, more opportunities have been created. That's why we advance as a human race, right? And it is for a very fundamental reason. We're ambitious as humans. Yes, we automate these things. We don't have to do that anymore, but everybody doesn't go home. We're not comfortable with having the same things we had before. Those things are now automated or done more easily. We want more, we do more. Societies grow, the whole human race grows and with technology. Now, that is not to say that everyone is going to benefit equally. There will be winners and losers. That's true at the individual level, at that company level, at countries levels. Not everybody's going to benefit in the same way. So the key thing is to figure out what are the things that you need to do as a person, as an entity, as a business, as a country to benefit the most of the change.
And if I may add to your great answer, I think also brings the opportunity that everybody can have access to the same thing. So small countries could be the big winners, small companies could be the big winners. So there is a big opportunity for new disruption and new jobs with this change. How do you see it, Francesca?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I think that AI, artificial intelligence, and RPA are sort of fundamentally two distinct things. I don't necessarily believe that automating all specific human tasks in the case of RPA is going to take away a full industry. I think we've seen over time that industries have transformed, domains have transformed, agriculture is one great example of that. And I think what happens is some specific tasks go away, but new skills and new tasks evolve. I think that AI is a trend that's probably here to stay, and only because most organizations are, they ask themselves the question, what level of intelligence can I incorporate in this product or service? And I just think that data itself is becoming more of a vehicle to help drive actionable components or decision making that we don't necessarily see at scale today. So I fundamentally think that they're two separate things. I also think that there are industries that are probably going to be earlier leaders. So when I think about RPA, I really think about transformation in the automotive industry, which then ties into other disruptions that the auto industry is going through right now. And the other thing that I think we see is that sort of marriage between the people component of the future of really deep learning. AI sounds so scientific, but just deep learning. And I see industries, and I'll pick back on the Netflix example really quickly, because when I see how that's applied, some of you might have a Netflix account, you have your own sort of personalized recommendation. I see their business model getting disrupted because I could see them not even being able to even have a proposal, given on a specific series based on patterns that they've seen with that information. So I think AI is here to stay. I think deep learning is here to stay. I think it's pretty important.
So I agree with everything that's been said. I think that the one perspective I'll add to it is, to pick up another thread from the Fannie Mae discussion earlier, I think that shapes our roles as leaders in an IT organization or in any part of our organizations, right? And the Fannie Mae speakers were speaking about servant leadership and a leader's responsibility as a coach, because I do think that some jobs will go away. Some things will get automated. There are people who are doing roles today that won't exist in the future. And so that's a source of fear. And I've certainly seen people in my career who get paralyzed by that fear, and they end up, not having a future. Whereas if we as leaders can coach those people and provide ideas and constructive suggestions on how people evolve their roles, I see it happening in the organization that I'm in today, with people really getting much closer to their functional partners and really partnering with them to take them into the future, as opposed to being more in the back room and doing work that could be automated in the future. And so I wish I could say everybody is on that journey. We do have people who aren't, and we need to help them move forward.
Excellent. We have time for a couple of questions. I don't know if anybody has a question for the audience. Okay, one here. Yeah, the mic is coming. Right there.
We don't want him. We don't want him.
It's going to be a hard question. So.
Hi, my name's John Canella. I work at Cisco as an IT engineer in security. So my question is for Francesca.
That's great, yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned AWS, and I've been reading on AWS for a while, and just the business model behind AWS, and how Amazon, they used AWS to build their own internal cloud, and then they licensed it out to different companies, and Netflix being one of them, governments, agencies, etc. So then when Amazon Go came about, I was thinking about the business model behind that, and I was thinking maybe the business model behind Amazon Go will be similar to AWS, where in the beginning you guys use it for to have customers go to Amazon Go stores, and you see how successful that could be, and if it is a success, then you go and partner with retailers where they can utilize the Amazon Go technology, where it's the frictionless payments, and partnering with, let's say, Walmart or Target or other retailers. Like, it's almost like in order to stay ahead, there's no choice but to be a partner with Amazon in that sense. Do you feel like that's where Amazon Go is going to head? Do you feel like it's going to be similar to AWS, where it's almost like a tax on a business? They have to, in order to be successful, Netflix, they're not going to stop being a customer to you guys because all of their infrastructure, their data is already on AWS. So it's like once you start that partnership, it's hard to let go. So similar to retailers, supermarkets, in order for them to stay ahead and to digitize, they're not going to create a whole frictionless payment if you guys have already developed it. So do you feel like that's the same business model is going to happen with Amazon Go, similar to AWS?
Yeah, so I can't comment on on any sort of future thoughts. What I will say though is sort of the birth of AWS in general was really based out of a capacity and utilization pain that we were feeling with the .com business, that we felt like we could package and help our other customers, save money in a new platform. So, to the extent that customer demand is there, that we would explore it, but I can't specifically comment on what we might do for Go. But.
And we have one more question. Okay, go ahead.
Diane Gill with Bank of America. What role does information security play in digital transformation, and do you consider that to be part of your company's culture?
Well, my response is easy on this one. It's number one for us, and by a long shot, number one. It's the only way we get trust. I let Carlos and Monica maybe talk about from their perspective.
Yeah. For us, cybersecurity is a pillar of what we do. Cybersecurity has a very important role in digital transformation because the level of exposure that we all have as we move to a more digital world increases exponentially. Therefore, and given the actors that we have, and everybody reads the papers, as the risk increases, having the right levels of protection is also fundamental.
I would agree. Cybersecurity is absolutely central to our digital transformation strategy. And, we've had, attacks on our system been happening for years and years and years, right? Because some of our adversaries would very much like to get inside Lockheed Martin and see exactly what we're doing. So we have developed a team that is exceptional. We really demonstrate very strong thought leadership. And so, of course, they are central to our digital transformation strategy because there will be new cyber risks associated with this, and we have to constantly be ahead of our adversaries. So right in the middle of it.
Monica, Francesca, Carlos, thank you very much for your help here and
Thank you.
for being in the panel.